I'm sure that most of you are aware of, we've all heard the story of the Good Samaritan, but let me just give you a quick recap. So this teacher of the law, this guy who was an expert in the Hebrew law, comes up to Jesus and he says, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus responds, "Well, what does your law say? Like, you're the expert. What does it say?" And the expert says, "Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus says, "Awesome, you got it. You nailed it." The expert, unsatisfied, says, "Hey, well, who is my neighbor? I want to make sure that I get this right. I don't want to have to love people that I don't have to love," I guess is what he's saying. And so Jesus goes into the parable, and so the story goes that this man is walking along the road, and thieves come up, beat him up, take all of his money and whatnot, and leave him on the road to die. And as he's laying there, some people pass by. The first person that passes by is a priest. And he doesn't stop, he just walks on by. Next guy that comes along is a Levite, which basically is like a descendant of the Holy Family. So basically his father, his grandfather's grandfather, they've all been in the family of Levites, these most holy, kind of like the teachers of the law of those days. So he passes by as well. And then, of course, the third person is the Samaritan, who, the Samaritan of those days was the guy who was not, according to the Hebrews, he doesn't really follow the law. He's not a good Jew. Of course, as the story goes, the Samaritan does the right thing. He helps the person, goes way above and beyond, even just helping him, and so on and so forth. But let me go back to the two that passed him by, because I think we often skip over those people and just assume, okay, those guys are the bad guys in the story. That's not us, and we're called to be the Samaritan. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of the priest and the Levite. These guys, I'm sure, they were on their way. They're on the road. And they were on their way to do something that I'm sure they thought was God's work. The priest, maybe he was on the way to teach others about the scriptures, about things that they should know about God. The Levite, maybe he was on the way to do something that he thought was God's work. And so what this brings up is Christians these days often, sorry, my thing is going all crazy. Christians these days often condemn social justice as not God's work, that especially if it's preached from the pulpit, that social justice is not the top priority that Jesus would have for us. And yet, in this situation, Jesus is saying that is, not only is that what God's work is, but he is actually saying, if we go back to the original question of the teacher of the law, the expert in the law, he's actually saying that this is how you get eternal life. Now, of course, this doesn't, sorry, my phone. This does not, I don't have the answer of what this actually means, how this plays out, because we all know that works are not how we earn eternal life. It's nothing that we can actually do. But what Jesus is actually saying here is loving others, loving your neighbor, which is helping this person that's dying on the side of the road, is God's work, and that is the most important thing that you can be doing in that situation when you see those that are hurting, those that are marginalized, those that are on the sidelines, that need your assistance. That it's not about going to church. It's not about checking all the boxes. It's not about doing all these things. And I say this with the full knowledge that I screw this up all the time. In fact, I was thinking about this. Where this all started was I was on my way to church, and I was a little bit late, and I had some duties at church I had to do. And I thought, what if I saw someone on the side of the road that needed my assistance right now? Would I be willing to stop and forego the church service? Would I neglect those duties at church in order to help someone that needed me in the moment? And I didn't have a great answer. I didn't see someone, that was all just theoretical. But all that to say, I don't know. And often I fail at this myself. And so it's something that I need to work on as well. But I just encourage you as Christians to think about this story when you hear about social justice work and you start to question it as not as important as other church activities. Because I think this story, this parable that Jesus tells, pretty clearly points to the fact that it is important, and perhaps it's more important than your other duties that you've been holding up as the most important. Thanks.